President Donald Trump's aides are now literally hiding information from the president that disputes his fragile little worldview. You know, that same worldview that says Donald Trump is awesome and he's going to win re-election in a landslide. According to a report from the Daily Beast, these same officials are doing their best to keep him in the dark about terrible poll numbers regarding the 2020 election, for fear of upsetting him like the baby he is and turning him into an impotent, frothing rage. So that, of course, has led to a cease and desist letter aimed at CNN with the goal of getting them to retract a poll that had Biden about 14 points ahead of Trump. So that letter was hilarious and incredibly sad and super, super pathetic. That is super beta cuck. I'm just going to say it, right? That's what someone who is so unsure, the poll, you got to take back the poll. It's fake news. Whatever, dude. Cry more. So this wasn't just mocked by me and CNN and Left Wing and everybody on TV and your grandma probably, everybody was laughing at it. Even members of the Trump administration had laughed at it. One official called it, quote, the dumbest thing I've read in a long time. Quote, this is according to the Beast's report. In one respect, it was just the latest effort by the president's aides to attempt to satisfy the boss's appetite for retribution against CNN. But it also revealed an element of the Trump political operation that has increasingly demanded time, money, and attention, mainly the task of convincing Trump that the electoral landscape and polling deficits he faces aren't as dire as he's been hearing. Now, look, is there a case to make that polling could be wrong? Abso-freaking-lutely. Look at the 2016 election, way, way off. The polls were super, super off. And that's why, of course, you need to look at any kind of polling that's going on now, a little bit of skepticism, and understand that, hey, things could change. The situation can change. The polling numbers can definitely change, and all of that based on the situation. But it's not just about polling, right? Remember, Donald Trump, he is in the defensive seat now. He has got to defend giving and using his entire term to give corporations massive tax cuts, to deregulate them, to showcase his massive personal corruption. He was impeached once so far, first term impeachment, and then they watched him complain and melt down on Twitter every single day. This is during a pandemic, an economic recession, and a massive social movement against police brutality. And so, deeply, deeply unpopular president. And yet, on all of those things, right, Trump has taken the opposite stance that a leader would take. He's hid out in his bunker. He's used the military to crush peaceful protesters. Also, he can get a photo op where he's holding a Bible, and then has used, again, the office very, very openly, very transparently to benefit himself and his friend. Look at all the golf trips he's taken. Look at the trip with, I believe it was Donald Jr., that used $75,000 of taxpayer money to go hunt a sheep. Like, you've got to be kidding me. And all of those things, like I said, are working against him. People are tired of this, and yet the White House, people in the White House have such a terrible job that they have to go, oh, no, Donald, it's not as bad as it seems. Yes, these poll numbers are horrific dumpster fire level, but it could be wrong. They could be wrong. They probably are wrong, so don't worry about it, right? In fact, one official who's been part of a meeting with the president about this, about his re-election prospects, says that this helps keep the president from flying into a rage as much as he otherwise would. Baby. Sad. Beta. Fifis over facts. That's what that is. Come on, dude. Now, the report notes the aides are assuring the president that there is a lack of enthusiasm and that the polling could be wrong. Now, look, both of those points I will definitely concede. Is there a lack of enthusiasm when it comes to Joe Biden? Absolutely. But understand that this election, this is not about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a stand-in. He's basically generic Democrat A, but with like, hey, I was Obama's VP thrown in, which does obviously give him a little bit more of an advantage, right? But understand this is a referendum election. This is not the same as when Donald Trump went up against Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was far more unpopular than Joe Biden. Plus, it was an election where you had status quo versus radical change, right? Now, I'm not saying that Joe Biden isn't status quo, but understand that the dynamic has changed. We're in a completely different dynamic now where most people miss the status quo. Now, that's incredibly frustrating to me as a leftist, right? Because the status quo literally is what got us Trump in the first place. And it has been a disaster. But it's also true that there are a lot of people that have buyer's remorse for letting Donald Trump win or for voting for Donald Trump. And so they would elect pretty much anybody. And I think what cemented this, other than the intense corruption, personal corruption that has gone on in the White House for quite some time, was using the military against peaceful protesters for the photo op and his disastrous response to coronavirus and the economic harm that has resulted from it. And so people now are like, I don't know, I'd vote for a ham sandwich. Well, guess what? Joe Biden is the hammiest ham sandwich on ultra white bread with no condiments whatsoever. He is plain, he is Spartan, might turn bad pretty soon here, right? There might be a couple mold spots there. But so far, it's a little bit more palatable than Trump, who is just a rotten shit sandwich filled with arsenic. Pretty bad. So nonetheless, this probably explains why Trump this entire thing is running the same kind of election he ran against Hillary Clinton, because he doesn't know how to run anywhere else. He doesn't know how to defend and doesn't have a record to defend on. Okay. So he's got that mindset of attack. Well, that worked really well against Hillary. And let's be honest, he'll probably get some pretty good body blows in against Biden. Now, he'll do it in probably the most hypocritical ways, of course, because Donald Trump and Joe Biden are both really, really bad on a lot of separate issues. Trump, of course, being to Biden's benefit somehow magically worse than the worst Democrats that we can come up with. But that will be enough to get people out there to say, well, look, we know Biden sucks, but we got to get this monster out of office. That's what this is. And so, yeah, ham sandwich. But Trump has no strategy whatsoever. And the thing about this is that few people are out there willing to say this. They're willing to say that. The Beast explains, a chunk of the re-election team focuses on proving to the president that his dumpster fire numbers aren't as bad as they seem, or reinforcing Trump's conviction that pollsters get it wrong all the time. The report notes that two officials think the president, when confronted with the poor numbers, isn't taking them seriously, and that may be because officials are softening the blow when speaking to the president. Pollster Frank Luntz said this. He said that Trump may be victim of pollsters who are bought and paid for, and they will tell you, the client, what you want to hear. Shocker to hear Frank Luntz talk this way. Again, this is the guy who poll tests different phrases and all that to basically come up with ways to make conservative, terrible policy sound super awesome and helpful. That Frank Luntz. And he's like, I can't believe all these ass-kissing pollsters around Donald Trump won't tell him like it is. But he says this: I don't envy those who have to tell Donald Trump what he doesn't want to hear. I've met him several times. I've met Biden several times. I would rather present bad polling information to Biden than Donald Trump. Presenting bad information or tough information to Joe Biden, you'll break his heart. if you present tough information to Donald Trump, he breaks your arm. You know who does that? A baby. Somebody who can't control their emotions. And that's who Donald Trump is. He can't control himself. And look, that's one reason why I do think Biden's going to win this. I think he is going to walk to the election. I think Donald Trump is in a terrible, terrible position. Now, again, as a leftist, I think this sucks because we missed a gigantic opportunity. I mean, I'm not saying that I want Donald Trump to win. No, what I'm saying is that we missed a chance to get a more progressive candidate. Because if a ham sandwich can beat Donald Trump, then Bernie Sanders, who was constantly ahead in every single matchup, and Donald Trump had policy positions that were incredibly popular with the majority of people, even people who had voted for Biden in many of these states that had primaries. The problem was you had that electability argument that was beaten into the head of everyone. And yet we find out, of course, that the electability argument is garbage. It's trash. Joe Biden and pretty much, again, every other Democrat is electable compared to Donald Trump. And so we miss this opportunity to get a president that would push for real progressive change and actually prevent a possibly worse Donald Trump from coming down the line. And so that's the thing. And look, I know, it's depressing, right? It's depressing to know that Biden is simply going to win by not being Donald Trump. It is everything that we as leftists hope that we wouldn't be forced to contend with. The situation of, well, here we go with that lesser of two evils. Frustrating as hell. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.